Back in early May, President Donald J. Trump sent shockwaves throughout the entire entertainment industry with a social media post on his platform of choice, Truth Social. In the post, Trump makes several assertions about the film industry that were no doubt calmly reasoned and considered before he sent out the message. One of those assertions is that the movie industry is dying, a claim that does hold some truth to it. While streaming continues to thrive, theatrical distribution, which was already waning prior to 2019, has essentially been on life support with the 1-2 punch of the COVID pandemic and the dual writers and actors strikes 2 years ago. Trump also claims that other countries are incentivizing Hollywood filmmakers to make films overseas, which is also true. Many countries offer various tax incentives and perks to bring Hollywood film productions to their shores. But that's about where the objective truths in Trump's statement end, and we're yet again introduced to the septuagenarian's patented brand of colorful language. Trump goes on to claim that this incentivization by other countries is an intentionally malicious effort to devastate Hollywood, a statement that seemingly ignores the fact that states within the United States do the exact same thing, which is why damn near every MCU movie is shot in Georgia and not Hollywood. Georgia offers tax incentives that LA refuses to compete with. It's just how business is done. He further claims that this drive to draw production is a legitimate security threat, an attempt to produce anti-American propaganda. An ironic take, considering Trump's own post was made on a platform that goes out of its way to tell you that the inflammatory statements made on it are indeed the truth, and a claim that's basically baseless. If the statement stopped there, we'd all chalk up Trump's tirade as nothing more than another wild, errant thought from a political figure who should have more important things to worry about. But Trump finishes the post by declaring that he's going to solve the problem he imagined using his favorite dumbass means: tariffs, authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to institute a 100% tariff on all films coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. What is this, Middle-earth? Thankfully, Trump's post was immediately tempered by an official statement from the White House a day later saying, "No final decisions on foreign film tariffs have been made." Luckily for us, to help clarify the confusion even further, we could all turn to Trump's last bastion of defense when it comes to dealing with the liberal lesbian hordes of Hollywood, the president's very own ambassadors to Hollywood, a collection of once respected celebrities turned right-wing who've apparently been appointed by Trump to interface with the president of Hollywood himself in order to address the diversity issues that are plaguing the film industry. First, there's Sylvester Stallone, the former softcore star who spent the last few years of his life whining about the Rocky franchise being taken from him, and vaguely insinuating that perhaps the series has become a bit too urban, despite the fact that he willingly sold the rights to his script and characters in order to get the movie made in the first place. Then there's Jon Voight, the former counterculture icon of midnight cowboy turned conservative who seemingly just didn't feel like paying child support for his famous daughter Angelina Jolie for a good chunk of her childhood. And finally, the most noble of all, Mel Gibson, the openly racist, anti-Semitic, alleged domestic abuser who somehow continues to consistently work despite being a known monster. Of Trump's stable of ambassadors, it was Voight who offered the much-needed clarification, revealing in videos and statements to the press that he and his lawyers had recently met with Donald Trump at his personal resort, Mar-a-Lago, in order to outline a plan to help bring Hollywood back from the brink, and in his own words, prevent it from going down the drain like Detroit. Man, f*** you. Voight's plan was subsequently acquired by Deadline, and to be fair, not everything in it is completely terrible. Of course, there's the 120% tariff on any film production that chooses to shoot in a foreign country when they could have been shot here, which is dumb for a couple of reasons. A, it opens the US up to reciprocal tariffs, which would inevitably lead to higher production costs, which would in turn lead to higher ticket and streaming service costs. And B, the legality of a tariff on film production is questionable in the first place. Films are a service, and in our digital age, not usually a product that is physically shipped across borders. But aside from that, there's some good stuff in there too, mainly a proposed federal tax credit of 10 to 20% that would stack on top of whatever proposed credit an individual state would offer, changes in ownership laws with streaming services that would offer filmmakers and showrunners a chance to own what they create, and infrastructure tax credits for theater distributors to improve the film-going experience, so audiences across the country won't have to suffer through washed-out showings of The Thunderbolts due to a projector that should have been retired years ago like I recently had to at my local AMC. Sorry, it just pissed me off. The movie was mid anyway. Beyond the issue of the tariff, the real problem with Voight's plan, and what I believe to be the real motivation behind Trump's desire to interfere with the film business in the first place, is a proposed cultural test film productions would have to pass in order to receive the federal tax incentives. Voight bases the cultural test on one that is currently used in the UK entertainment industry. The test would ensure that the bulk of domestic productions would be made up of American film crews, that the films would star American actors, a problem when we consider that half of our American icons are portrayed by British guys, and that the films in general would positively represent American culture, i.e. drinking beers and blasting Kid Rock while shooting guns in the air like Yosemite Sam. The obvious problem that arises here is what exactly constitutes American culture, and what government body would be responsible for determining that. America is supposed to be a melting pot influenced by all the cultures that seek refuge within its borders. But when we live in a country where the president seems hell-bent on deporting anyone with too much melanin in their skin who dares to disagree with him, even going so far as to ignore Supreme Court judgments, I get the feeling that anything that isn't white enough simply won't be right enough. For example, would a film co-produced by Americans about an undisputed American icon starring a Romanian-born American citizen, but directed by a foreign filmmaker, meet the requirements of Trump's cultural test? If the president's reaction to that exact scenario, last year's excellent biopic The Apprentice, is anything to go by, the answer is a definitive no. The Apprentice stars Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump in what is easily one of the best performances of his career. The film follows Stan's Trump as he's taken under the wing of scummy attorney and legal fixer Roy Cohn, who turns the budding real estate mogul into a tyrant who eventually betrays him. Think of Frankenstein's monster, only with a business suit and even worse hair. In the film, we discover where Trump learned how to deny accountability for any wrongdoing, bluff his way into monumental deals by blackmailing and extorting anyone in his way, and even get to experience all the times he cheated on and allegedly sexually assaulted his first wife, Ivana Trump. Despite being a distinctly American tale about Donald Trump's favorite subject, himself, the then president-elect did everything in his power to suppress the release of the film, sending a cease and desist letter to the production despite the fact that the content of the film was covered by the First Amendment, and issuing a statement through his attorney and current White House communications director Stephen Chung. This film is pure malicious defamation, should not see the light of day, and doesn't even deserve a place in the straight-to-DVD section of a bargain bin at a soon-to-be-closed discount movie store. It belongs in a dumpster fire. I gotta give it to him. As far as burns go, that one's pretty thorough. And specific. Even though the film had a strong showing early last year at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, because of Trump's threat, it ultimately had difficulty finding a distributor, eventually securing a muted theatrical release at the hands of Briarcliff Entertainment late last year, the same distributor that would go on to release the similarly embattled and equally excellent Jonathan Majors film, Magazine Dreams. While Trump failed to get the film shelved entirely, his displeasure made it nearly impossible to promote. During the movie's award season push, Sebastian Stan couldn't even secure a fellow actor to participate in Variety's popular Actors on Actors YouTube series, and interviews show that is becoming increasingly integral in generating awards buzz. It would seem that Hollywood's outspoken liberal elite are, in actuality, a little too chicken to participate in promoting art that could potentially make a difference. Though Stan eventually earned a Best Actor Oscar nomination, he ultimately lost to Adrian Brody, and the film itself barely earned enough cash at the box office to cover its budget. I believe Donald Trump's treatment of a film that dared to speak truth to power is a tidy microcosm of what his intentions for Hollywood actually are. His cultural test would be little more than a means for the president to censor or suppress any film that dared to undermine his ideals for what America should be. And if his reaction to Bong Joon Ho's 2019 Best Picture winning film Parasite is anything to go by, I'm guessing those ideals harken back to an era when a white man could own a black one and women knew their place. What the hell was that all about? We got enough problems with South Korea with trade. On top of that, they give them Best Movie of the Year. Was it good? I don't know. Let's get Gone with the Wind. Can we get Gone with the Wind back, please? How is your most timely reference Gone with the Wind? Aside from Trump's obvious racist and xenophobic motivations, we have to ask ourselves why he, as president, is so invested in the entertainment industry anyway. I mean, between paying stars hush money, firing essential federal workers, and getting bullied by one of ketamine junkie Elon Musk's 17 brats, you'd think he'd have more important things to do than get involved with pop entertainment. But the truth is that Donald Trump has always wanted to be viewed more as a celebrity than any sort of political figure. Think more of a Tom Cruise type than an L. Ron Hubbard. Only unfortunately for us, he aired more on the Hubbard end of the spectrum, inspiring and indoctrinating a dangerous cult that ruined red baseball hats for everyone. For years, Donald Trump has jumped at any and every opportunity to appear in film and television. fascination, beginning with a blink and you'll miss it cameo in Bobby Brown's music video On Our Own, the main single from the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack, which low-key actually bangs. It's a catchy R&B hip-hop jam that efficiently explains the plot of Ghostbusters 2. From there, the real estate mogul would make several appearances on television, popping up on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Excuse me, but I've got something to tell you first. Thank you for ruining my life!
You're not alone, Ashley. Spin City.
You should call your next book The Art of Not Helping.
Very apt observation, Michael J. Fox. And even Nightman.
What do you think?
You guys remember Nightman, right? The 90s Marvel show that aired on the WB at 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoons when exactly no one was watching television. The show about the jazz musician who gets struck by lightning and gains the preternatural gift of insomnia? The late 90s were weird, man. Trump would often make it to the big screen as well, with notable appearances in Home Alone 2, The Little Rascals, and even, sadly, one of my favorite comedies, Zoolander.
Look, without Derek Zoolander, male modeling wouldn't be what it is today.
Ugh, in order to make myself feel better, I'm just going to insert a superior clip from the same movie here.
What is this?
A center for ants!
All of these pop culture appearances would eventually culminate in the reality show The Apprentice, as well as several appearances in his good buddy and fellow sexual deviant Vince McMahon's WWE programs, including WrestleMania. Trump's willingness to essentially do anything as long as it's in front of a camera betrays a clear desire to hobnob with the glitterati of Hollywood, a club that not only has never wanted him, but actively loathes him. Aside from his collection of ambassadors, Zachary Levi, because I guess he just doesn't like having a career outside of faith-based movies, and Uncle Tom friends like Snoop Dogg and Nelly, Trump has largely been derided by Hollywood's celebrity set. He's been routinely mocked by late-night talk show hosts, been the focus of countless SNL sketches, and been in more than his fair share of celebrity feuds. Though even I know he up when he went after Taylor Swift. If the sycophantic loyalty she inspired in both my ex-wife and ex-girlfriend is anything to go by, Trump's been permanently marked by middle-aged white women the world over. However, the most cutting representation of how Hollywood views Trump may have come from the same Oscar-winning filmmaker he insulted back in 2019, Bong Joon Ho. Back in March, the director released his latest big-budget studio effort, Mickey 17. The film stars Robert Pattinson as a disenfranchised small business owner who volunteers to become an expendable employee on a space expedition to colonize another planet. As an expendable employee, Mickey takes on hazardous jobs the rest of the crew doesn't want to do, often dying in the process before being reprinted in a new body and put back to work. While the film itself is a broad commentary on the current state of America and capitalism in general, its broadest aspect might just be Mark Ruffalo's performance as the leader of the expedition, Kenneth Marshall, a vain businessman turned politician with cheesy veneered teeth and bad hair who bankrolls the expedition for his own self-aggrandizement. Marshall has no problem abusing his expendable employees, inspires cult-like devotion from his followers, and endangers the safety of the expedition with his unprovoked, violent response to an alien culture he doesn't understand and makes no attempt to. It's a truly cutting, not so thinly veiled critique of our current unfit commander-in-chief that feels more than a little personal coming from Bong Joon Ho. It's also one of the best aspects of a big-budget blockbuster that would no doubt never get made under Trump's proposed tariff laws. Let me know what you think about Donald Trump and his film tariffs down in the comments section below. Like me, do you think he's trying to do nothing more than turn Hollywood into yet another one of his personal propaganda arms? Or do you think he just loves film and wants the industry to survive? Let me know. I'd also like to ask that if you liked this video, please click the like button, press subscribe, ring the bell, and share it with a friend. I'd like to say thanks in advance. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.